Welcome to the Leverage Show. This is Brett Ingram. And today, let's talk about your workspace. Let's talk about your office, your desk, or wherever it is that you actually work, because I think it's one of the things that we take for granted the most, we overlook the most, yet it can have an absolutely dramatic impact on your happiness, your productivity, your ability to get things done, and ultimately overall your success. And it sounds like a big jump to go from what your desk looks like to overall success, but the fact of the matter is you're only as good as you are productive. And so there are four characteristics that I think are really, really important in terms of whatever workspace you have. Now, you may work at a desk, you may work in an office, you may have employees that are there, and so you're not in a position where you can completely, control every aspect of it, and that's understandable. But if you have these four things in mind, and you bear these four things in mind when you go to create your space, or you go to set aside extra space, you may even want to reconfigure and rethink things, I think it will make a major difference and a major impact on the way that you work. For me, and I'll share a little personal example of this, I actually work out of my house, and so I was in a situation where I actually had two different offices set up at the same time, and neither one was a real office. I sort of had a desk and a space here, and I had something there, and for a couple of years I actually did that. The problem was I always felt a little bit sort of lack of sense of feeling at home, or lack of sense of feeling comfortable with where I was working, because the things that I needed, the resources, the tools, my files, my information, whatever it was, I didn't have it all in the same place. And so it was difficult because I would have to go to the other room to get this, and then downstairs and upstairs, and go all over the place in order to get the different things that I needed. And I always felt, at the time, like, well, this doesn't really matter. I mean, this is just something that, I could power through this because I'm good and I'm productive and I'll get all this stuff done. But what I found was once I actually buckled down and made changes, and I set up a real office for me where all of my stuff is in one place, the ability to focus became so much more pronounced. The ability to get things done, to determine what was important, and to not get distracted so easily became so much easier. And this is extremely important for you if you have a home office. Now at work, again, you may not have, as much control, but at home, if you have a home office, you absolutely can do some things to make your home work environment so much better. And so the first thing, and I actually think this is the most important, is actually to make sure that it's uncluttered. And I use that word specifically because you could be organized, but you could still have piles of things here and there and everywhere else. And when you do that, it weighs on your mind. When you try to get work done, you see this pile and you see that pile, and it becomes very difficult to focus on what it is that you're trying to do because you see these piles of things and it's sort of like a nagging reminder that you've got stuff to do or things to sort. And so uncluttered, if you have lots of information, then get a file cabinet. If you have lots of things, then find a way to stack it neatly. If you don't have a lot of space, again, this is all okay. It's not like you need 2,000 square feet for your office, but you need to be able to find like at least a workspace, a desk and a chair, and an area where it's totally clean. It's got your laptop or your monitor, maybe your speakers and your, pen and pad or whatever it is that you use for work. You want to have that stuff in that work area, and really that's it. Everything else needs to be put in file cabinets. It needs to be put on shelves, in a closet. You can go over to, whatever, Target or Walmart or whatever and get those plastic bins. You can get a file cabinet at IKEA for really cheap, and you can store things in there. But just having things organized and knowing where things are and having your space itself that you're working in uncluttered will make a huge difference in your ability to focus, your ability to have clarity, and your ability to avoid distraction. So as important as being able to focus on what you're doing is the ability to avoid distraction. And when you have lots of other things You got piles of mail and you've got this over there and that over there. It draws your eye, it draws your attention. And even that split second, if it breaks your train of thought when you're trying to do something that's important that requires thinking, it takes several minutes to get back into that flow again. And so you've lost it. You've wasted a lot of time. So an uncluttered, organized workspace is really, really important. Another thing that is very easy to overlook is well lit. Now, again, if you don't have a skylight, if you don't have, huge windows and natural light, that's okay. You can either get artificial simple lights or you can even get indoor lights. It doesn't have to be sunlight. I prefer that if possible. But at the same time, you want to make sure that it's well lit. You don't want to have your eyes straining. You don't want to be in a situation where it's uncomfortable to be in there, or it puts you to sleep because it's so dark and it's so dingy and dark that it hurts your eyes, and that all you really want to do is lay down and take a nap. Light, brightness in your workspace makes a big difference on your energy level. It makes a big difference on your focus, makes a big difference on your motivation, and ultimately for a lot of people on your mood. You can even buy these certain mood lights that even during the winter, I live in the Northeast of the United States, and so we get dreary winters sometimes, and you can even get these mood lights that actually represent a lot of the different ultraviolet rays that you would get from the sun, not the harmful ones. And so it helps improve your mood, whatever it is for you that you need to make sure that the lighting in your office or your workspace is appropriate. If you have to bring in a desk lamp, bring in a desk lamp. But it's really important because, again, it helps you with all of those other things. Now, a third thing is that it needs to be private. Now, I have kids at home, so believe me, I feel your pain if you're saying to me, well, I work out of the house or I have a home office. It's impossible to be private. It's challenging. It's not impossible. My kids, actually, their rooms are really near my office. However, I find time to work like when they're at school. I do the things that I need to do, like recording the Levrige show and other things like that, when no one is in the house. And then when I have time to do other things, I can do my administrative things. I can do the things that don't require focused amount of time when everybody else is home and when it is a little bit noisier. So that's a matter of prioritizing your private time. But you have to find some time that it's private. If you work in an office and you have employees and they're prone to coming up to you and, hey, I need your advice on this and what do I do with that? And I have a question for this. What you want to do is find a period of time each day or several blocks of time. If you can't break away from people for several hours at a time, then what you tell them is, from 9 to 10 in the morning or whatever you come in, I'm yours. If you need me, come get me. I'll help you. From 10 o'clock to 11:30, I'm going to shut my door. I'm going to go in my office, whatever. I'm not to be disturbed unless it's an emergency. I'm doing work where I can't be disturbed. And then when I come back out at 11:30, again, open game. Save your issues. I'll help you with them then. And then after lunch, you want to do the same thing. Take a period of time after lunch, an hour and a half or whatever it is appropriate for you, where you can have your deep thought time, your deep focus time to do the strategic things or, the really important focused activities that you need to do and get those things done without interruption. And when you build that into your schedule, that private time into your schedule, so you know when you're going to have it, it will make a big difference because you'll be able to count on that. You'll be able to look forward to it and you'll be able to plan around it. And at first, if you have people that, if you have a staff and they're really needy, and I know what that's like because in the last business that I owned, I had a staff and they needed me for everything. It takes a little practice because they won't believe you when you tell them, well, when I go in and shut the door, I'm not to be disturbed. They'll come knocking anyway. And the first few times, you just need to, politely remind them, this is my quiet time. I need to focus on what I'm doing. I'll be back with you at 11:30 or whatever the case is. Once you do this a few times, they'll start to get it and they'll stop bothering you. And the other side benefit of that is they'll actually become more productive because they won't want to wait for you either. So they're going to learn to do things on their own. They're going to make their own decisions. They're going to do things that maybe they didn't really need your advice for, but they were going to stop and ask you for it anyway. They'll go and do all that stuff on their own. And that's going to save you a bunch of headaches also. And then the fourth thing that I think is also really important is comfortable. You know, I don't have an extravagant office. I don't spend a ton of money on, my office supplies or my furniture or anything like that. I got my desk from IKEA. But at the same time, I made sure that the stuff I got is very comfortable. So I got a chair that I feel very comfortable in. I can sit in it for hours without getting antsy or without getting uncomfortable because I need to be able to do that. That's what I do for a living. So I have to have, if you have to spend a little bit more to get that, or you need to shop around and try a few different desks and chairs and things like that, that's fine. I am very picky about my computers because for me, I work on them all day long. And so I'm, while my desk I don't care that much about, for computers, they have to have certain features. They have to have certain ergonomics. Otherwise, it drives me crazy. So I do a lot of research before I buy a new system. My keyboard and mouse have to be high performance. My monitor has to be high performance. That stuff I don't skimp on. Other things I will. Because it has to be comfortable to do whatever it is that you do. If you do a lot of writing, then you want to get a writing instrument, a pen or a pencil that is ergonomic, that feels good in your hand, and that's comfortable to write with. If you have to spend $75 or $100 on a nice one, that's fine because it'll last you for years. And the productivity increase that you will get from doing that goes way beyond the price or the cost that you're going to spend one time to get this writing instrument. So think about, the comfort level in your office, or your workspace, and think about the things that you could do to make it better, make it brighter. If you want to put a plant on your desk because it makes you smile, or a picture of your kids or your spouse or, whatever, your dog or whatever, that's great. Anything like that that's going to make it feel better to be where you are is going to make you more productive. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. None of us want to spend all day, every day working. None of us want to work 80 and 100-hour weeks. We do it when we need to, and we do it when we need to cram to get something important done, because that's what we do. That's what we're made of. At the same time, let's try to get as much stuff done in as little time as possible, either by, outsourcing or whatever, but at least make our time when we're doing what we're doing as productive, as comfortable, and as pleasant as possible, because it makes a huge difference in your quality of life. It makes a huge difference in the results that you'll ultimately get in your business. So those are 4 key things that you can do. They're really simple. They don't cost you a lot of time or money, but if you take that stuff seriously and you just go ahead and do it, you'll find that it makes a huge difference in the quality of your workday. So as always, if you have any questions, if you have any topics or things that you want to discuss on future episodes, please share that stuff with us. And until then, make it happen.